Europe is that time of day. It's the Bazaar patch notes. Now, I'm late to this, generally speaking, due to time zones and other constraints. Also, I haven't even closed the other stuff in my browser, so I have to mute my desktop audio. Not that it really matters to you, but anyway, we're using the 22nd January patch notes. Now, I understand that there's also a video released in parallel that, where is he? The Reynard, the entertainer turned boss of company, etc. I don't know what the specifics of his position are. He's just kind of the guy, right? He talks about all these specifics, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of my opinion now that I've had a bit more time and I'm a bit more well versed. Especially I was pretty understanding of the previous meta, which was very charge based. But anyway. Okay, critical hits now trigger for the entire output set. Now it's no longer each thing is per thing. So this is just overall. I think it's actually probably I mean, the numbers probably even out overall, but it makes it seem like it makes more sense. Now, when you shield and deal damage, it's both a crit or neither a crit. You don't need to worry about one not being there in the other, because it doesn't make sense for one item to have one thing do a crit, one thing not do a crit. It's kind of like foolish, right? But anyway, okay. Level up rewards that provide upgrades now utilize the pedestal system instead of leftmost. What is the pedestal system? Oh, like you put it there. Okay, it's good so that there's no issues. That's fine. Gumball machine nuggets 5 at a time. I love you. I love you so much. I'll kiss you straight through the screen. Thank you for this. Bugs. Yeah, that I recognize that one. Lich encounter nerfed. That's pretty good. And removing improved talk. I mean, that should make it possible. It's still going to be very, very hard to do if you have a non-weapon build or a multi-activating build. The Genie Lamp and Thieves Guild Medallion removed due to bugs makes sense. I mean, not that there was already a base level bug. It's I can understand from a programming perspective. You know, it sort of interrupts the regular flow, so I can understand that. Anyway, this will be a smaller set of patch notes, so I should be able to go over it in a relatively fast manner. Okay, Astrolabe is now. They revert it? No, okay. They move the upgrade buff to the cooldown instead of to the charge, which should prevent it from going instant, but it should just make it go there forever and no longer shields, which is, I mean, that's fine, I guess. It didn't really, I guess it was like partially synergistic with the shield meta that we had before, but it's not very useful. Okay. Barrow is now shield 10, probably a worthy change. Blowgun now starts at gold tier. I think is Blowgun the deal damage and poison? Yes, it is. So I mean, you almost never use it because you get it so late. So I think this is probably fair. It's hard to balance like a small weapon with such versatility because it's either so niche that and useless and too late, or it's going to be overpowered and like fits in too easily. Okay, one sec. OBS, I love you for the pause ability. Anyway, it's for you, it's as if nothing ever happened. Charm now gives you aquatic items plus more crit chance. Okay, I mean, it's still pretty much a waste of time, but I guess it's better than nothing. Silencer is now a tech type instead of tool type. Its effect scales slow. It's better at the beginning and worse as it gets higher. And shiny doesn't bug it. Okay, it's basically doesn't change that much about Silencer, to be honest. You're still gonna take it, but you may no longer need to level it past like 20 or 25, because at 25 you're probably not hunting it for a diamond level. That's kind of fine. Fixed the trebuchet bug. Fixed electric eels freezing itself. Icy electric eels. Imagine that. Illusionary chakra again. Right? Didn't they temporarily add that and remove it? Now it's back. Okay, and then they like partially reverted Cannonade, but they made it better damage-wise. This is a buff to Cannonade, in my opinion. The way I see it. So I think I could consider taking Cannonade, because if you get your level upgrade, you get it to diamond pretty quickly. then you can deal a lot of damage, especially if you just cycle it consistently. I'm a fan of that. Okay, Captain's Wheel rework. It's no longer a charging item, but if you have a vehicle or a large item, reduce the item's cooldown by 50%. But now the haste scales. So a diamond water wheel will have a 50% reduced cooldown. And I think this actually probably makes it a more reliable pick because you no longer need to have like the back and forth. You can instead just have a vehicle or large item in your build and put it there, and you can position stuff wherever you want it, and it's actually going to make it more versatile even if it's not as OP in like one specific combo. So I think that's fair. Catfish is now a fixed poison 4. It's just that the poison it gains scales, which is probably fair because poison 1 at level 1 is pathetic, and the level amount that it gets buffed is irrelevant. Dockline now starts at silver, probably fair, and honestly it may even be a buff in some sense. Actually, it's probably never a buff, but I mean, it doesn't change how good docklines are, obviously. Incendiary rounds has been reverted to how it used to be, which is a non-cooldown item. I think it makes it better when it was better in the previous edition, so that's fair. Okay, a lot of tech tag. I guess it's a new sort of tag. They're trying to differentiate stuff. Javelin cooldown buff, 1 second less. That's chill. Pearl now has a fixed charge, and the shield is the thing that scales. So this makes Pearl basically every Pearl is bronze now. So you can't infinite charge everything, but you can make it like fast, and I think that's fine. But you don't need it. But like the infinite back and forth that was permanent is problematic, and I understand that they removed it, which is good. It doesn't mean it's completely useless, but I would definitely consider it's no longer an auto pick compared to the more offensive options that Vanessa has. Right? Okay, they put the charge thing back to 2 seconds flat. They just reverted Trebuchet completely, to be honest. I think this is literally what it was. So Trebuchet is back to what it was, and it was good. They were trying to experiment, and now it's back, so that's nice. Okay. Tripwire now starts at gold and increases the slow to 2 seconds at diamond, and now it's no longer a charge item. I think this also I think is a buff to Tripwire, no? Diamond Tripwire buffed in my view, but gold things starting sooner is also very nice. Ramrod redesigned. Oh yeah, the like insanely long cooldown adjacent reloader, it's useless. Okay, here we go. Reload adjacent ammo items. Your ammo items have crit chance. When one of your items runs out of ammo. Wait, this thing, Ramrod, am I thinking of the right item? That thing was not on a 4 second cooldown. It wasn't? Oh no, wait. Okay, how Bazaar still has it listed as 4 seconds? I think they meant to swap these because it used to be 8 and now it's 4. Otherwise, this wouldn't make sense. Just to clarify. So this makes this an actually viable item to include in an ammo build. I might consider picking it up now. I think I'm interested in the theory. Okay, Turtle Shell. Now the shield gain is scaling, but the charge is fixed. I think you can probably still make a non-weapon build, but now you just need to include barrel as well, and it won't be as good and infallible compared to like the other builds. In general, they're lowering the like insane ceiling, which is good. It makes things a lot more manageable and sort of fair. Okay, water wheel scaling cooldown decreasing, but the charge is fixed again. I think this doesn't really change that much. It means that you don't really. A diamond water wheel is not a huge deal because actually upgrading your water wheel is completely irrelevant now that I think about it. Because the cooldown reduction you can get from feathers and wings and stuff like that you can target to the water wheel. So I would probably not even look for upgrading this because you're going to get more guaranteed cooldown reduction from other sources. So you may as well upgrade more integral parts of your build. Dare I say it. Okay, pig issues, bug fixes, that's chill. Bushu charge is now fixed and the heal is buffed. Exactly the same thing they did earlier. Caltrops is now gold tier and you can level it to make it do 10 damage. given how hard it is to get damage up on weapons now compared to how it was before, apart from like skills, I think this is fair and probably won't be very good. Okay, marbles now charges fixed, and now it slows on one item again. I think that's what it used to do. And Matchbox, they have not reverted. Matchbox is still a charge item, but now the charge is just fixed. But the burn scales a little bit. Better burn, but infinitely worse, synergy here. You're going to, the instant build is no longer as viable, but okay. But this is what it used to be, right? All item cooldowns, but anyway. Okay. Crook now buffs much less. Okay, I see. That's probably a good idea because there's a lot of medium weapons that Pig has access to, and it doesn't really like. It was way too strong, and Crook builds were too annoying, especially with multicast, because the buffs get obviously doubly applied. So it's probably a valid nerf. Same thing done to model ship. This almost every single one of the charges that have been fixed to 1 just makes them worse items. The thing is, because everything is sort of being nerfed, I'm just worried that this was sort of, whether this levels the playing field. I'm not sure what you prioritize now. You probably go back to same thing with Vanessa, like you're going back to your normal weapon sort of trebuchet build or whatever. In this case, I would say you're also probably just going back to what's it called? Your traditional dog, beast of burden. You're buffing those and just shielding, and you're getting a lot of health. But I don't know if you can get a lot of health as easily anymore. Probably going to be, relying on the large items and selling small items and stuff like that, with like lemonade stand and pawn shop, stuff like that. So probably something like this. Belts, of course. Okay. Fort cooldown, it shields a lot more, has a high cooldown. You're not really buying it for the shield. Obviously, all item cooldowns are increased, but your items with 8 seconds or greater have 1 multicast. Okay, so it's a completely different item now. You're trying to one shot. So this is an insanely good combo. In my mind, I'm envisioning. So you get this and you get the double whammy, and your double whammy gets triple multicast. Or you could even get it with any one of those huge, the large weapons, the club, for example. And you can do a free synergy alongside that to do a lot of stalling. So, and plus if you multicast freeze as well, it's like insanely deadly stuff. I was wondering what was making audio in my background. I have the Bazaar open right now because I was about to play it. Anyway, Vineyard, when you use an item, this gains heal equal to the value of that item from the fight. This is now a heal scaling item. You could put this alongside, what do you call it? The landscraper, subscraper, skyscraper, those 3. You just have one of those big ass builds. I can foresee this, but it being very slow is also interesting. So maybe you have Fort and Vineyard and then Shield, and then you try to permastall. You get rid of the instant combos by making them slower, right? And then you try to scale your healing. But the problem with these kinds of builds is that because they're so slow, it actually matters. You can it's countable how many times they might be able to go off before you start getting hit by the storm. Because the storm is really fast right now, and I'm not sure I like that very much. That's one thing I actually have a problem with, is that I think the storm should increase a lot slower. Now it should still, maybe the sharpness of it should keep going, but I think the problem is it doesn't really test how good your build is against sustained damage, because it goes from in literally 1 second, it goes from equal footing to you basically dead unless you have fast casting items. So that's also a problem that I think Pig has to sort of face in that sense. You're not slick, by the way. Ice cream truck 8 seconds and then Fort 8 seconds or greater balance change. I mean, I guess it wouldn't have mattered because your cooldown will be increased anyway, maybe. But regardless, okay. Duct tape reverted. Probably good. Probably now it's a good item again. Fixed ray tooltips. Turbo doubles haste duration instead of second haste. That's fair. They fixed the charge of Bellista and nerf the damage increase, but it still seems like it's going to be pretty good because 2 charges sufficient, I would say. It's not dead by any means, but you know, we might go back to previous dually builds. Dare I say it? Greater shield, lesser charge on the blast doors. I still don't really think that this is that good of a item though. Okay. The rays gain the ray type. I guess now it's a specific thing. I guess they're trying to make sure universality kind of exists, right? If something is calls and makes reference to rays, you should have it as a thing that you can see on the item. Otherwise, it's confusing and unintuitive. Like the Dinosaur synergy, which I did think was weird that there was no like other tagline. Okay. Solar Farmers also had the similar charge rework, but now the max is hasty for 3 seconds, which is kind of crazy. So I think that this is still Solar Farm is still going to be an insane item in a burn dually build. You know, because it's sustain, which dually struggles with having as like a something that it can have not alongside other things. So you can have a shield dually build, but then that's you're locked into that. Whereas if you're damaging dually, you're not going to have any other recovery methods. So I think this is probably a very, very, very strong item. I can imagine 12. I mean, 12 regen adds up. Don't even worry. Plus charge, but you're still going to be able to charge so frequently, especially when you're hasting. I think that's important. Again, there's the similar stuff for pretty much everything that charged is changing. Railgun is now tech instead of core or array. Arc Blaster still has an 8-second cooldown, which is insane. And this they gotta fix this shit. I think 8 seconds, right? I can check. Okay, cool LEDs is now scaling cooldown time but fixed charge. I think that makes it probably makes it worse at peak but better in isolation. Worse in builds for sure, because the reason you bought is to have some bouncing back and forth as well as a nice utility. Anyway, I mean most of these changes are sort of, you know, nice to have. Like Microdave, this seems like Microdave is a pretty big nerf because you being fixed to 1 second is really bad. Because this is at least 2 seconds, it's not the very base level. This is 1 second, so that's also pretty bad. But I guess you can have a lot of small items. But because you're probably considering scaling the burn on Microdave using the ignition core when you're playing dually, so because it was a thing that charged, so on and so forth. Okay, now it charges items, not itself, which is probably more valuable than charging itself the majority of the time. But 1 second charge, I don't know if it's worth. Frankly speaking, Companion Core is now a water wheel. No, it's now a captain's wheel. So you're no longer going for friend synergies with Companion Core, which is a pretty big nerf to Companion Core, to be clear. Only hasting adjacent items instead of all friends, you can no longer haste your entire board, which is rough. Unless you get 2 large items, which could be a build, but dually doesn't really go 2 large items, really. Okay. Break Buddy's reduced scaling, probably fair. A lot of things are gaining tech. That's good for synergy, so I'm not going to read them. They fixed a lot of other stuff. Okay. Oh, new skills. Let me read those. I'm looking forward to it. Void Ray has very interesting. These random changes are pretty irrelevant. Proboscis is reverted, which is, I think, probably worse considering Diamond Proboscis could have crit chance and stuff like that, which you can't now. So, you know, it's back to like being more niche instead of reliable. Neurotoxin reverted, Cryo Sleeve. Very strange. They buffed the shield, but it freezes your adjacent eyelid for a second, and it's only half a second. And it's every 3 seconds. So now it's like a shield item. Still don't know why you would or when any item gains freeze. You know what? This could be good for pig. I would say that this could be good for pig, because you could probably do a pig freeze build, something like this. But anyway, pendulum crit chance buff haste number. I guess it could be a buff or a nerf depending on it's a buff to max level. It's a nerf to like if you have a lot of small items, I guess. Fixed charge, more crit chance. I mean, it's a very hard item to get anyway, but it now makes it even better than it already was, and it already was pretty good, in my view. Okay. Jesus Christ. Bug fixes. We love to see it. Let's go through this real quick style, and then I'll give us some closing thoughts, just so we don't hear literally forever. Okay. Cauterize, Repertoire, and start fire remove. Cauterize, Repertoire I remember because we know all about that. Cauterize is when you gain, burn, heal. Start fire is the one that. What is start fire? When you gain, burn, gain, regen, and buff your weapons. Okay. They're removing the anti-tech for freeze and burn here, which is interesting. I'm a bit disappointed, especially. I mean, everybody loves Repertoire, but I do understand why Repertoire got removed, because Repertoire basically prevented any freeze builds from ever making any sense against you. Because if you have that one skill, like an entire build is neutralized, and I think they want to try and avoid that. They want to try to avoid like insane hard counter stuff, which is probably fair. Although it hurts to go up against freeze. What they need to do, if they don't have this kind of hard counter skill in the game, which I agree is probably a bad thing long term, because it just doesn't. It's not like engaging, right? You go up against someone, they got one skill that neutralizes your entire build, boohoo. But they also need to make sure they don't allow for infinite combinations. Honestly, they should just remove the icy enchant, but I understand that it's a lot of fun, so that's fair. Okay, new skill. Poisonizes a plus poison for each weapon you have. That could be really good if you have one poison item and a lot of weapons, or some poison weapons, which is maybe one. Heavy firepower. 4 of your items, weapons are plus damage. Insane for some. This could be good for a cannonade build, maybe. I don't know. I'm thinking. Because this actually is not that much, because if you have large weapons, which is likely if you have 4 or fewer items, or even medium weapons, plus 25, 50, 75 isn't even that much, but it is free. It's just a skill. So anyway, tiny dancer. So opposite of small. If you have at least 7 items, they have cooldowns reduced. Now that's a really, really good item. If you've at least 7 items, your weapons do. Okay, this is insane. This is a fantastic Vanessa skill. If it's is it a Vanessa skill? It's a neutral skill. Everyone can get it. So this is a very, very strong universal weapon buff for small weapons. And I think Vanessa is pretty easy to get this with Vanessa, especially if you're doing an ammo build. You can get like throwing knives, revolver, all that stuff. So this is a great skill. I would consider auto picking it, and if you're doing a small Vanessa build, but that's just me. I'm to be transparent, I'm not great at the game, but I do like to think I know what I'm talking about, even when I don't practice what I preach. Okay. First 5 or 10 times you use a weapon each fire, charge a heal item a second. Not very useful for a lot of cases. If anything, you might want it to be like delayed, because charging it at the beginning doesn't really make much of a difference. I guess it might if you have to defend against like bursts. Anyway, these don't seem too interesting to me. New skill, Healthy Heart. Basically a light version of the Fire Rebirth, which is an insane skill in my opinion. This seems like a great way to pick up It's a great way to counter those building burn poison builds. Anyway, by the way, I feel like I should try Weather Glass again on Vanessa, but that's just me. Toxic Flame, when you burn poison and when you poison burn, wasn't that already a thing? I guess it wasn't. It was not both ways. Okay. The slow burn is now. I don't really value what the previous one was. It's kind of irrelevant, but okay, these are both pretty good. Especially the poison and burn ones are more valuable than the heal ones because these are the things that actually build up. So okay, this is great, especially if you only have one item that you know is going to get charged. So then it's actually valuable. And then you can see they're being very like light on charge. It literally is 1 second. Since all charge is going to be less, and this is charge on something that usually isn't given access to charge, right? It's a definite like I would consider it over some other things, especially if you have the build for it. First time you fall below half health, double. Okay, this is fucking broken for pig, especially. Because especially if you have a slow pig build, you're gonna get you might even get below half health before you shoot your first weapon shot. So if you double your multicast weapon, like a what do you call it? Like I mentioned before, the double whammy, this could go absolutely delusional. So I'll be worried about this one. One weapon builds especially. Okay, electrified hole now. These things are now scaling number of times it goes rather than charge, which is pretty fair. This is a nerf, but honestly, the early charges are pretty good. I think they're trying to prevent things from going to infinite anyway, so it doesn't make him that much worse. Yeah, they limited sick burn, they limited lefty loosey. A lot of the unlimited skills are limited, which I do think while it's necessary, it does sort of, you know, it feels like it's less integral to your build now. Because previously you could pick up like lefty loosey and it would be an integral part of your build. You would want to think about what goes there because it's going to go all the time and it's going to like keep buffing your entire squad, right? For example, with trebuchet build, it matters a lot what you put in the lefty loosey active slot. But now if it's only going to activate a fixed amount of times, you know, all it does is accelerate your beginning, but maybe that's still important. All I'm saying is it's no longer as important. Okay, anything else that's interesting in here rather than just these simple changes? Okay. Basically anything that you can think of that was unlimited when you use something, it's now a limited factor, is what it seems like to me. Bloodhound is now silver because that makes sense because the bronze bloodhound was useless. It felt useless compared to, you know, the higher levels, so that's fine. Limited haste, but I think this was already the case. Okay, so big nerf to Oceanic Rush. Big slight nerf to Quick Ignition. You're unlikely to have more than 2 or 3 burn items, especially. So I wouldn't even say it's a problem. It's probably a problem for Dooley, but it's not going to be a problem for like Vanessa. Let's put it that way. Depth charge now. It's the same. It's nothing has changed. Am I losing my mind? Anyway. And some more unlimited nerfs. Basically all the way down is unlimited nerf. Chemical fire buff, which is pretty good because +1/+1 is fucking atrocious. Let's be honest. It does nothing for anybody. Sorry, I was consuming air. Burning shield is now shielding equal to double the burn on your opponent rather than the burn of your items, which is great. This makes it actually a buff. The burn of your items is very hard to increase now, but the burn of your opponent obviously stacks. So I think this is actually it's going to be more of a priority pick compared to some of the other most sustained ones that are temporary. I mean, this is temporary, but it's a one-time big chunk, and these are like small-time, in incremental chunks that still will stop. So I think I would consider taking Burning Shield. Let me put it that way. Building Crescendo now reduces basic crit chance by 100%. It doesn't matter. If you pick it, you're going to get to 100% soon enough anyway. I guess they're preventing immediate when it kills by a little bit of time. Literally like 2 seconds, 3 seconds maybe. Okay, so my summary of this patch, they killed the most annoying, parts of builds from Vanessa and from Pig, which is the infinite charge synergies. So it's great that they actually addressed this relatively quickly. I mean, it was 2 weeks or thereabouts, so it's not a huge problem. But in terms of what's viable now, I think they didn't buff much for Dooley. Obviously, Dooley's still got a really good win rate. It's got a lot of viable builds. I think the Bellista build's still gonna be viable. Dinosaur builds obviously still gonna be viable. Stuff like that. But I won't speak too much on it since I don't play that much Dooley yet. I think Vanessa's gonna go back to a lot of weapons and trebuchet haste classics. You're gonna go back to seeing, Crow's Nest potentially and stuff like that. I think, especially since the pufferfish nerf now is also limiting that, I wouldn't auto go for the pufferfish build, especially considering I think it's probably harder to build poison on a pufferfish than it is to build damage on weapons, because you're gonna get more weapons and those increase your damage, but you can't just upgrade, your poison in any other way. You have to get the pufferfish. So a weapon build is more diverse in that sense. So I would consider going for weapon builds and sort of, you pick and choose what limited haste and sustain you have in that sense. As for Pig, I think Pig's going to go back to, big tanky stuff rather than trying to go infinite with the small item. Small item meta is probably out of the picture in my view. But that's just how I see it. And well, that's all I got for you. Godspeed in the new patch, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to keep track of, and I'm not trying to plug their side, but if you're going to be playing a closed beta, you should, at least if you're going to complain about something, keep track on the Discord and keep track on their Twitter for when what they're releasing and bugs and stuff, because you're paying for essentially a secret experience. You recognize that that's what it is. So I think complaining about things being broken in a version of the game that when you bought in, you recognize that you were going to be experiencing an unfinished product, and that that comes with a certain sense of quote unquote, I wouldn't say responsibility, but you have to accept sort of what that means. You're not gonna go crazy mode as a result. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, see ya. Subscribe, I guess.